Hey everyone, welcome. We are going to be getting started in just a minute or two. Sometimes it takes Zoom a minute to get everybody that's been in the waiting room into the actual webinar. So I'm going to give it a minute or two before we actually get started, but we will be starting shortly. All right. It looks like my little counter has stopped counting. So I think we're good to go. Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. This is, I did the math last night. This is our 15th Stories of Hope and Healing graduation events. And we are super excited to have you all here. I'm Tammy Stackelhouse. I'm the founder of the International Fibromyalgia Coaching Institute. You guys might know me from my books, Take Back Your Life, The Fibromyalgia Coach, or maybe even from the Fibromyalgia Podcast. We are thrilled to be able to share our stories with you. I have got 7 graduates here who are going to be sharing how they've improved their fibromyalgia over the last few months. And of course, I've got our special commencement speaker, Dr. Ginevra. Just a couple of housekeeping things before we get started. We are recording. This is going to be the replay that people will be watching if they couldn't be here live. We're also going to be using this on the podcast. Because of that, we're trying to keep some of, we've got fibro brains, right? So we're trying to keep some of the distractions to a minimum. Excuse me. So because of that, we have turned off the chat, but we do have the Q&A open. If you guys have questions, by all means, please submit them. Just make sure that you've got an email address in there, because we will be answering questions. If they're, simple, easy, and I can throw them into the interview with our grads, then I will try to do that. But if it's something that's going to be a longer answer or doesn't fit with what we're already talking about, then we will email you a reply, and that will happen next week. This takes a lot of energy for us, so when we're done, we'll take the rest of the weekend off and then get back to answering your questions next week. So please do be sure that you've got a way for us to do that when you submit your questions. I also want to just kind of give you an overview for what we're going to be doing today. So I have a little bit more I want to talk about. For those of you who might not know a ton about fibromyalgia, I want to do a little bit of an overview and why it is so important right now in the world post-COVID. We're also going to hear from our commencement speaker, Dr. Ginevra. Then I am going to do the presentation of the certificates. This is the part where you imagine them walking across the stage. And then after that, we will be interviewing each of the graduates. I try to do these events in about an hour and a half, but I think today might go a little bit longer just because we've got 7 graduates this time. And then after the graduate interviews, I'm going to share where you can get some free gifts that we have for you. So what is fibromyalgia? If you're here, you probably know something or someone who has fibromyalgia, maybe the people who are graduating. And just to give you a little bit of info, fibro is a chronic pain condition. And the 4 main symptoms, there are definitely other things that go along with it, but the 4 main symptoms are widespread body pain. We are having someone with a little bit of feedback. So I just wanted to address, mention that if anybody else is hearing that, please put that in the Q&A so we know if it's on our end, but most likely you will want to just drop out and come back in. Okay, so fibromyalgia, widespread body pain, hurt all over. We have cognitive dysfunction, we typically call fibro fog or fibro brain. And then we have got unrefreshing sleep, meaning that you can sleep and sleep and sleep and sleep and wake up and feel like you didn't sleep at all. And then the last one, you'd think it'd be brain fog because I'm having trouble thinking of it, is fatigue. So with our fatigue, I think of it like a cell phone battery. We've got batteries in our bodies that just don't charge well, and they run out too quick. So fatigue with fibromyalgia can sometimes be more debilitating even than the pain itself, because sometimes we can push through the pain, but when you're fatigued, you can't push. So that's kind of a general overview of the symptoms that we face with fibromyalgia. The National Fibromyalgia and Chronic Pain Association estimates that 2 to 4% of the world's population is diagnosed with fibromyalgia, which is a minimum of 300 million people in the world and 10 million here in the United States with fibromyalgia. Works out to about 1 in 20 women and about 1 in 40-ish men. We are going to see these numbers grow as a result of COVID. The largest study that was done so far on COVID was published a little over almost a year ago in September 2022. And they found that 27% of the people that were diagnosed with COVID in this particular study continued to have symptoms after 60 days, which is the definition of long COVID, long haulers. There's a few words we use to describe it. I'm just going to call it long COVID. And so then there were other studies that looked at the intersection between long COVID and fibromyalgia, and they found that 30% of those who were diagnosed with long COVID, who, remember, had symptoms more than 60 days after they got sick, they found that 30% of those also met the diagnostic criteria for fibromyalgia. And with so many people on the horizon being diagnosed with fibromyalgia, it really is super important for patients to have the knowledge that they need to be able to make informed decisions and to feel their best. Now, unfortunately, fibromyalgia is not one of the things they teach a lot about in medical school. And, to be fair, those doctors have to learn a lot and they can't learn everything about everything, in their medical school. So that means that we as patients end up not sometimes getting the help that we need. And I know you guys have all probably run into this challenge, doctors that don't know what to do to help us, doctors that have maybe run out of ideas, or even say that they can't help us anymore because we've moved past their knowledge. And this is something that we are trying to help solve here. I really believe that somebody who is trained as a certified fibromyalgia coach or advisor can kind of help fill this gap. And I know our commencement speaker, Dr. Ginevra, I know she's doing her part to help fill this gap as well and train some of those doctors. But we need somebody who knows to be able to provide that education. The advisor class students that you're going to meet today, they have had 18 hours in class studying fibromyalgia and another 18 hours working with their mentor coach, exploring fibromyalgia even more deeply. That's the minimum. Some of these ladies have actually worked with our coaches for even longer than that. Our coaching graduates have spent a minimum of 100 hours in class with me, learning about fibromyalgia and how they can help other people with fibro, and another 100 hours helping others with their fibromyalgia. In order to graduate, they have to complete 100 coaching sessions, which are usually about an hour. So to be clear, having said that, as coaches, we do not treat fibromyalgia. We are here to educate you. We're here to fill that gap, to encourage you, to hold you accountable for the changes that you want to make, to help you implement the things your doctor has been telling you to do that you're struggling with. We're your cheerleader. We're your support system. And that is how we can kind of bridge that gap for you to get the help that you need. Now, before I go and introduce our commencement speaker, there's one more thing I want to explain to talk about for you guys. One of the things you'll hear us talk about a lot today is the Fibromyalgia Impact Questionnaire. If you are not familiar with this, this is the measuring stick, so to speak, that doctors and researchers use to measure the impact of fibromyalgia on your life. So you can kind of think of it like a measurement of your fibromyalgia symptoms. The higher the score, it's a scale of 1 to 100. The higher the score, the worse your symptoms are. The lower the score, the better your symptoms are. Our students use the Fibromyalgia Impact Questionnaire to assess their fibromyalgia when they start the class. And then we do another assessment 3 months later at the end of the class. Our coaches also use this to assess their clients as they're working with them. So let me put these numbers kind of in context for you. We were talking a little bit before we went live, and Dr. Ginevra made the comment that any improvement counts, right? So even just 1 or 2% is awesome because we can add those little bits up and eventually get to where we want to be. But to give you a little bit of context for this, most of the medications that have been studied for fibromyalgia improve the Fibromyalgia Impact Questionnaire score by about 15 to 30%. If they work for you at all. A lot of times patients can't take these meds because of unwanted side effects or other reasons. Other therapies, like cognitive behavioral therapy, I just actually read a study of this. They found that it did not actually provide long-lasting relief from fibro pain, but it was helpful in improving how people cope with their pain and improving their depression. So to kind of put these scores in context. This class, our advisors who are graduating have improved their fibromyalgia symptoms by 55% in the 3-month class. One of the graduates you're going to hear from today improved her Fibromyalgia Impact Questionnaire score by 87% during those 3 months. The coaching graduates you're going to hear from have improved their scores even more because they have been working on it longer. And one of our graduates has actually improved by 92%. So she is essentially symptom-free. Both of our coaching grads are. So this class started at an average of 59 and ended at an average of 27. And basically that's going from like a moderate level of symptoms, most of you are probably there, to a very mild level of symptoms. Now, after we hear from our commencement speaker and I present the certificates, I will be interviewing all 7 grads, and we're going to talk about exactly how they did that and hopefully give you some new ideas and some hope that maybe you can feel better too. All right, let's go ahead and move on to our special guest commencement speaker, Dr. Ginevra Liptan. As a top fibro expert, Dr. Ginevra is a Tufts University School of Medicine graduate, board certified in internal medicine and trained in functional medicine. Dr. Ginevra developed fibromyalgia as a medical student and spent many years using herself as a guinea pig to find successful treatments, which she shares in her books, The Fibro Manual and The Fibro Food Formula, and her line of herbal and magnesium products, Frida Botanicals. If you want some fierce fibro advice, I love that, from a doctor who has personal experience, you can follow Dr. Ginevra on YouTube or at drginevra.com. Welcome. We are so thrilled that you're here with us today.
Thank you so much. I'm happy to be here, and congrats to all the graduates. I'm so excited that there's 7 people that now can help more people exponentially with fibromyalgia. That's the beautiful part, I think, of coaching and advisors, is that, each one person can help maybe another 10 people who can help another 10 people. So I think that was kind of Tammy's vision when she first started the Coaching Institute, was to really be able to spread more widely that piece of information that you might need to help yourself feel better with fibromyalgia. And I think the topic of my discussion today is I wanted to really focus on ways that we can kind of help our provider to help us. Because I have experienced fibromyalgia both as a patient and as a provider. And I think I can speak to some of the challenges on both sides of that interaction. And everybody that's listening to this that has fibromyalgia can completely relate, I'm sure, to the experience of going to the doctor and feeling like you know more about fibromyalgia than they do. And that is a very discouraging feeling, because how are you going to get help from somebody who doesn't know more about the condition than you do? And also, why are you seeing that person, right? Like, if they're not going to be able to give you some help. So I thought it would be useful to focus on that today. And I do think that coaches and advisors that have been trained by Tammy, I think, have an interesting and important role to play in that, in smoothing out that experience and allowing patients to get much more benefit from each healthcare provider visit. So I think this is important enough, actually, that I devoted an entire chapter in my book, The Fibro Manual. Chapter 5 is helping your doctor help you. And, you know, I wish I didn't have to write that chapter. I wish that healthcare providers and doctors knew a lot more about how to treat fibromyalgia, but the reality is they often don't. And so that's kind of one of the first friction points that we need to address. So as I talk today, I wanted to kind of talk about 3 friction points where I see the challenges, where I see it break down between what patients need and what healthcare providers can give them. And so the 3 friction points are, first, the knowledge gap that Tammy identified and that all of you are very familiar with. The second is that we operate, at least in the US, in a very broken healthcare system. It is fragmented. It was struggling before the COVID pandemic, and the pandemic pretty much made everything worse, I will say, with maybe one exception that I'll talk about in kind of the healthcare world, how the healthcare provider and the whole healthcare system works. I think everything is worse, unfortunately, but the good news is if we can identify the problems, then we can find solutions. So knowledge gap, broken healthcare system. The final piece is fibromyalgia factors, what we bring to that interaction. And the biggest one that can cause problems is really fibro brain, fibro fog. That's one of them. There are a few others. So I wanted to kind of structure my talk around that, like these 3 friction points and how you as a patient can help overcome these friction points and help your doctor to help you. So the first thing is the knowledge gap. I will start with the good news. The good news is your healthcare provider, at least in this day and age, for the most part, understands and believes that fibromyalgia is real, and they do have some basic things that they can offer you. The 3 FDA-approved medications, often something like physical therapy, cognitive behavioral therapy, those all have some benefit, maybe not the most benefit, but I think, if one of those gives you 5 or 10% improvement, great, we'll totally take it. So at least you're not having to deal with a provider that doesn't even believe in the condition that you're dealing with. So that's progress. Where the gap still exists is in healthcare providers' understanding of how to treat fibromyalgia beyond the basics. And that is basically the reason why I wrote the Fibro Manual, because I was thinking, gosh, I have all this knowledge about how to treat fibromyalgia that I learned the hard way, both on myself, finding things that help me, and then through treating thousands of fibromyalgia patients over the past decade plus. And I thought, okay, I'm only one person, can't clone myself. How can I help the most people with fibromyalgia to address this? So I thought, if we're going to have to be our own doctors to a certain extent, if we're going to have to bring that information to our doctor, we need to have that information in kind of the most scientifically valid, the most updated, the most easy to understand format. And so that is where I think having the Fibro Manual or something similar, doesn't have to be my book, but something where you can kind of gain that education. And then you can bring more knowledgeable information to your provider. And for the most part, now speaking as a healthcare provider, for the most part, healthcare providers are open to you bringing information to them as long as you do it in the correct way. So like contrast these two things. The first is a patient coming in kind of angry and saying, I read online, I think I have SIBO. Why did you not diagnose me with SIBO, which is small intestinal bacterial overgrowth? That actually directly happened to me. And I'm a very open-minded provider. And I'm like, yes, let's look into it. But the way that it was brought to me, instantly I'm in a defensive mode because I'm being sort of like attacked. And healthcare providers are human, right? Like we don't like to feel in that defensive mode. Contrast that with a patient coming in, I'm wondering if I might have SIBO. I read about this and some of my symptoms seem like it. Are you familiar with that? Like that's a whole different ballgame, because then the provider can say either, yes, I am, and let's look into it, or I'm not. I'll find out more about it, or let me refer you to somebody. So I would just kind of keep that in mind. And it's understandable, you know, it's frustrating. I totally get it. You've been sitting in the doctor's office, you know, the waiting room for an hour, you're aggravated, you were in traffic to get there, but trying to bring it to your provider with curiosity and with like a more collaborative approach, it really can help. If your provider responds to that in a, I'm not even gonna like talk about that with you, then it's time to get a new provider. That's what I would say. If they're not even open to exploring something that you've suggested, I think that it's time to move on. But if they are willing to work with you, I would say try, because it is hard to find good doctors these days. So if you find one that at least is compassionate and understanding and willing to work with you with a sense of curiosity, hold on to that person. That is a really good provider. So the next component is the broken healthcare system, and you all have been customers of the broken healthcare system. It's broken in many ways, partly because it's so fragmented. You know, a doctor, you might have a primary care doctor that's over here in one healthcare system. Then you might be seeing a sleep specialist that is in a private practice over here. And then you might have a neurologist, and you might have a physical therapist, and, you know, all the different providers, they often are operating in silos, or at least can only see part of what the other person might be doing. And so it's very hard as a healthcare provider to feel like you're operating with only partial or incomplete knowledge. So how can we get around this fragmentation of our healthcare system? Well, this is where, as a patient, if you can kind of try to accumulate all your own information and bring it to each provider. So by this, I mean, if you get a sleep study, request a copy of that results to be sent to you, put it in a folder or a file, and then bring it with you when you go see your primary care doctor. And then if they are interested and they want to see it, you can share it with them. You don't have to, but basically you have to become sort of the repository of all your health information. The more you can do that, the less time your primary care provider or whoever is helping you with fibromyalgia has to spend chasing down those records, which, because of our broken healthcare system, can take like a week or 2 weeks or never, you know. So it takes a lot of energy on the healthcare provider's part that could be much better spent reading an article about SIBO so they know how to help you with that. So I would say things that you can do to make your doctor's life easier as they operate in a broken healthcare system are really important. So trying to get all the records that you can, and the most important records are lab results, diagnostic imaging results, surgical results, you know, anything that could help your healthcare provider to help you. This doesn't mean you need to bring in 800 pages and plop it on their lap and say, you know, this is all my records for the past 20 years. Like, that's not going to make your healthcare provider's job any easier. What you're trying to do is have those records with you or accessible in such a way that you can provide them if your healthcare provider asks for them or needs them. So be your own healthcare record repository. The second thing, and the other way that our healthcare system is broken, is doctors do not have enough time with patients. This is across the board, no matter what specialty and no matter what you're dealing with. And it is incredibly frustrating for patients. It's also incredibly frustrating and discouraging for doctors. No doctor likes being rushed. No doctor likes having to, I mean, the reason why your doctors are like typing while they're talking to you is because they have to, because they have 8 more patients they have to see before lunch. And I made the decision when I left kind of the grind, when I kind of went out in my own private practice, I made the decision to, when I talk with a patient, to look at them directly, to not be typing on my computer. What that means though, is I then later have to spend another half an hour to an hour of my time typing that note. So that's a decision I made. Most doctors in healthcare systems don't have that luxury. That's part of why I left the healthcare system as much as I could. So understanding that your doctor feels rushed, you feel rushed. So how can we improve that? A couple of ways. Most doctors have the ability to have extended appointments with you for more complex issues. A lot of patients don't know that. So when I was working as a primary care physician, I had a 20-minute patient option, a visit option, or a 40-minute visit option. And it was kind of at my discretion. Like if I knew a patient was complicated, or for anybody that was over the age of like 70, 75, based on all the healthcare conditions they might have, knowing they're going to have more medicines, I would say, okay, this person needs an extended visit every time. And what's interesting is I don't think any of my patients knew that that was an option. So what I told them is, hey, if you have fibromyalgia, every time you come in, see if you can get that extended visit time. And so it's really worth a conversation with your doctor saying, hey, I know fibromyalgia is a lot, it's complicated, it can take some time. Would it be possible for us to have extended visits each time so that we can cover more in each visit? And then it's up to their discretion, but I just kind of want you to know that that is usually an option doctors have, so ask for it. The other thing is the reality of a doctor's life. So when I was in primary care, I would see 16 patients a day. I would work through lunch. I barely had a chance to pee. Like it would be like 3 p.m. and I'm like, why am I so grumpy? Why does my stomach hurt? And I was like, oh my gosh, I haven't peed in like 8 hours because I just haven't had time because I've been running around. So know that your doctor is, we're working straight through that whole time. And then at the end of the day, that's when I sit down to finish my notes and to answer patient messages. And so a message that comes in, I'm not getting compensated for that time. That is something I'm doing after my day. So I might be looking at the message a patient is sending me on hour 12. I'm grumpy. I really want to get home. Or maybe I'm at home. I know a lot of doctors that actually every night after work, they come home and they chart. There's like a term for it, like it's home charting. Like you come home, you put the kids to bed, you chart for another few hours. So then when I'm getting that message, even if I am the nicest, most compassionate, most open-minded doctor, if I'm grumpy and it's hour 14, I'm not going to have the bandwidth to really give you anything more than a tert response. So I know from a patient perspective, it's so much more convenient to just send your doctor a message like, hey, I read about SIBO. What do you think? Could I have it? It is so much kinder for your doctor, and you will get so much more from your doctor if you make an appointment to talk about that. I think hopefully one way that things might change in the future is if there are more virtual visits, because that was actually one good thing that I thought might come out of the COVID pandemic, is that all of a sudden, all these healthcare providers, we were really reticent for whatever reason. We weren't really jumping into telemedicine. Well, the COVID pandemic pushed us all into it. And for the most part, I think both doctors and patients really liked it. They were satisfied with it, with a few exceptions. The challenge is it hasn't really stuck, and there's one reason for it. For the most part, insurance does not compensate for telemedicine. They only compensate, and this is ridiculous to me, that we're 2023, post-pandemic, and we don't compensate. For the most part, a doctor's not going to get paid unless they see you in person in the office. So this is why telemedicine has not taken off like it should. Now, I'm hoping that people will realize the idiocy of that, and we will start seeing that there will be more acceptance because, oh my goodness, from a fibromyalgia perspective, telemedicine is so great, right? You don't have to waste, it takes, 2 spoons in that analogy of energy to have a telemedicine visit, whereas it takes 20 to get out of the house, fight traffic, find parking, see your doctor, wait around. You know what I mean? It's just so much simpler. And so if we can get it to the point where that's compensated for, beautiful. But in the meantime, if what your doctor expresses hey, I need to see you in person, that's probably the reason for it. So it's worth asking if telemedicine is available, but if it's not, please understand that that's probably why. So we've talked about the knowledge gap, how you can get around that. We've talked about unfortunately, our very broken healthcare system, different ways to get around that. So requesting longer extended visits, trying to use appointments for more complicated things. I think messages are fine for very simple, like, hey, am I supposed to take that medicine twice a day or once a day? Like that kind of thing, like a yes or no, really quick, takes your doctor 30 seconds to answer it, totally fine, email. Anything longer than that, it really needs to be an appointment. And then understanding that you might need to be the central repository of your records so that you can provide your healthcare providers with that. Okay. Then the final piece is what we as fibromyalgia patients might bring to that encounter. And this is what I call the fibromyalgia factor. And the biggest thing is we're foggy. And it might be, if you get to the doctor's appointment and it's been already a lot of energy you've spent getting there, making that appointment, doing all the things, your likelihood of being in a more foggy or, fibro-brained place where you're going to have a harder time remembering or kind of being able to even ask the questions you want to ask. I think the fibro factor, and really by that, it's like the dyscognition, the brain issues, that is something that can play a big role and can leave us feeling pretty unsatisfied and maybe a little bit confused when we leave. And I think this is where trying to figure out really good ways of, coming into your doctor very prepared with, 2 or 3 top things you want to talk to them about on a piece of paper. I think asking them, hey, can I take notes while you're talking? And maybe asking them to slow down or repeat themselves, advocating for yourself in that way. Ideally, if you can bring somebody with you so that they can listen, maybe take notes so that you can just focus on that interaction with a doctor. All of that can really, really help. And the final piece of that is it can be hard. The one thing, like even outside of the doctor's office, the one thing that I see fibro fog where that really interferes with our ability to get the help we need is it makes it so hard to remember back to how we felt last week, right? So a doctor will say like, okay, 2 months ago, I started you on this medicine. How have you felt since then? And often there's this like, what, like it's very hard to accurately report that. And then that's not really going to give your doctor the data they need to decide, well, does that medicine work? Should we go up on dosage, etc. So finding a way to track your symptoms, whether it's on an app, whether it's on, a piece of paper, you can use some tracking scores and questionnaires that have been developed for research, like the Fibromyalgia Impact Questionnaire. That is a little bit of a longer scoring questionnaire. I, in my clinic, used a shorter version of that had only 7 questions. I called that the VASFIC, basically meaning like, hey, it really kind of looks at like pain, fibro fog, fatigue, the key 7 symptoms that I felt were important clinically. And that is available. If you'd like to use that, you can find that at drginevra.com, because I feel like some way to track your symptoms will help you to figure out if something's helping, and also will help you to give more information to your doctor. And just as I'm finishing up, I want you to know that it is not just people with fibromyalgia that struggle with this. So they have done lots of studies looking at like, why don't patients take their hypertension medications? And I was actually in a course recently, a CME course for physicians, and they were lamenting like, why do patients not adhere to their medications? Like, what is wrong with these patients? And studies have been done that have shown, this is not fibro patients, it's just across the board in a primary care clinic. Immediately after leaving the doctor's office, 60% of patients cannot accurately report, they cannot accurately tell back what their doctor just told them about taking a medication. This isn't even like a complicated thing. This is like, how did your doctor tell you to take this blood pressure medicine? 60% of people cannot do that. Add on top of that, fibro fog, I mean, we're looking at like 80 to 90%. And then add on top of that it's not going to be a simple recommendation. To going back to my SIBO example, that's going to be like, hey, track your symptoms after this food, look into getting this test done, blah, 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 look on this website. It might be like a 4 or 5 point thing that you need to do. So what I, as a physician, did is I actually spent the time to write down a very detailed step-by-step instructions. Now, I had the luxury to do that because I was outside of the healthcare system. Your doctor might not have that. So you might need to say like, hey, whoa, can you write that down for me? Or give me a second to write it down and then reflect back. So what I have here is I'm supposed to take this medicine twice daily, and then I need to do this, and then I need to do that. Is that correct? And then the doctor can say, yes, that is correct. I think then you might increase the odds if you leave then and you're still questioning, like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. Then you can look at this and be like, aha. So that is kind of in a nutshell ways that I think that we as patients can help our providers. And I think as coaches and advisors, I think if you can share some of these tips and tricks with your coachees, advisees, if that's the right term, I think that they are going to be able to get a lot more from each healthcare provider visit. And that is so important, because unfortunately, we really can't do this on our own. We really do need healthcare provider input. But the challenge is, how do we find those healthcare providers that have the knowledge and the ability to help us? Well, this is where we have to help them to help us. So I hope that this talk has helped you a little bit to understand more about how you can find ways to help your doctor help you. Congratulations to all the graduates. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much. And I know everybody's thinking, they wish they could have you as a doctor.
I wish I could be that doctor for everybody.
You and me both, right? Thank you again so much for sharing that. And those are so valuable, such valuable tips. Because really, as patients, we kind of have to take control of some aspects of our healthcare to get what we need. So these are fabulous tips you guys can all implement. Thank you so much. All right, graduates. Every graduation, one of the things I do is I pick a quote that is like our quote for the graduation. The emails that I sent out, those of you who got emails from me, you will have seen this quote. And with everything that's happening right now with the Michael J. Fox film that came out still, I actually have a quote from him, and I love this quote. He says, acceptance doesn't mean Let me try again. Acceptance doesn't mean resignation. It means understanding that something is what it is, and there's got to be a way through it. And one of the reasons I love this quote from Michael J. Fox is that we all know he's dealing with Parkinson's. So when he makes this comment, understanding that something is what it is, and there's got to be a way through it, he is talking about Parkinson's, which we can relate to with fibromyalgia. Acceptance doesn't mean, oh, well, I guess this is what it is, right? It means, okay, I have fibromyalgia. It is what it is, and there's got to be a way through it. And graduates, this is what you have done. That's why you all joined the class to begin with, right? Was, okay, I've got fibromyalgia and there's got to be a way through it. And you guys have all done just such a fabulous job working on yourself, working with your providers, and finding those ways, those little bits of improvements, big bits of improvements that you could make to feel your best. And so now I am going to present our graduates with their certificates. So as I said earlier, this is the part of graduation where I want you to imagine that these graduates are walking across the stage to receive their certificate. And so to help you do that, I'm actually going to switch to a slideshow, which you might have briefly seen a few minutes ago as I was getting this set up. So apologies to Dr. Ginevra for that. But let me just switch here. All right. And so we are going to be presenting two groups of certificates today. We have 2 coaches who are graduating and 5 advisors who are graduating. So first, I would like to present to you our newest certified fibromyalgia coaches. These graduates have completed both our introductory Certified Fibromyalgia Advisor course, as well as a 1-year mentorship working directly with fibromyalgia patients. They have completed a minimum of 100 coaching sessions as coaches, coaching fibromyalgia patients. It is my pleasure to certify that these candidates have completed all their course requirements in a satisfactory manner, and they are eligible for graduation as a certified fibromyalgia coach. First, we have Anne Garner. She is receiving the designation of Certified Fibromyalgia Coach. Anne's own fibro story began over 23 years ago. She understands what it's like being a single mom, all alone, living with fibromyalgia. Anne has learned how to balance her own fibro, working as a certified fibromyalgia coach, while also having a teen daughter with fibromyalgia, ME/CFS, and POTS, and helping an aging parent. Working together, Anne will walk with you on your fibromyalgia journey. She will help you manage your day-to-day living and improve your life with fibromyalgia. She's passionate about helping women of all ages find their voice, to empower them to live their best life. Congratulations, Anne. Next, we have Penny Lee Carroll. Penny is receiving the designation of Certified Fibromyalgia Coach. Penny is a seasoned HR professional who enjoys helping high-achieving professionals live life to its full potential, despite having fibromyalgia. As a certified fibromyalgia coach, Penny can coach you on how to navigate the workplace while not feeling your best and encourage you to take the steps needed to improve your symptoms. As a self-identified overachiever, having raised 3 children of her own while working, Penny has a wealth of knowledge on work-life balance and how to pace yourself in order to get back to living the active life you desire. Now, I would like to present to you our newest certified fibromyalgia advisors. It's my pleasure to certify that these candidates have completed all course requirements in a satisfactory manner and are eligible for certification and graduation as a certified fibromyalgia advisor. First, we have Constance F. Krinke. Connie is receiving the designation of Certified Fibromyalgia Advisor. Connie is a caring and compassionate person who has helped and cared for many family members, strangers, and friends through some of the hardest times of their lives. Connie grew up working hard on a farm with her family. Excuse me. Connie grew up working hard on a farm with her family, where she learned the value of honest work ethics, how to provide for the family, and helping others. This year was a challenge, advocating for herself, adding to her care team, and taking the Certified Fibromyalgia Advisor class. This has turned into a wonderful year to retire and begin to travel with her husband, Kurt, enjoying all the sights and living life to its fullest potential. Congratulations, Connie. Next, we have Kim Osborne receiving the designation of Certified Fibromyalgia Advisor. After years of struggling with fibromyalgia, Kim became trained as a health coach and yoga instructor to find relief from pain and fatigue. It wasn't until she found the Certified Fibromyalgia Advisor class that all the puzzle pieces fell into place. Kim's passion is to help others work with their healthcare providers and make simple lifestyle changes that add up to big improvements in their health and happiness. Kim lives outside Savannah with her husband, Tim, and enjoys visiting local farmers markets, exploring nature preserves, reading good books, and hanging out with family and friends. Congratulations, Kim. Next is Lauren Vazano, receiving the designation of Certified Fibromyalgia Advisor. Lauren is a busy full-time wife and mother of 2 children. She developed fibromyalgia after the birth of her first child in 2016 and was diagnosed in 2020. She started working with a certified fibromyalgia coach soon after. She credits her coach with guiding her through some of the most difficult times in her life. Lauren believes in the power of food as medicine to heal the body, and she enjoys meeting other fibro warriors and sharing her knowledge. Lauren is excited to graduate as a Certified Fibromyalgia Advisor and is eager to begin her Certified Fibromyalgia Coach training and looks forward to guiding others through their journey of healing. Congratulations, Lauren. Next, we have Lisa Kothi Anderson. She is receiving the designation of Certified Fibromyalgia Advisor. Lisa is an ordained pastor, early childhood educator, pediatric chaplain, and dog lover. She has a heart for service and holding space for healing and transformation. Lisa has lived with fibromyalgia for many years and is passionate about companioning others on their fibro journeys. She believes in the efficacy of self-kindness and compassion to bring about positive change. When she is able, Lisa expresses her creativity through community theater and enjoys taking the stage with her actor husband from time to time. Congratulations, Lisa. And now we have Susan Marie Gillespie receiving the designation of Certified Fibromyalgia Advisor. Susan has a master's degree in education and has 3 grown children. She has struggled with fibromyalgia and other chronic illnesses for the past 15 years. She has been searching for answers. She began searching for answers when her health began declining 3 years ago, and her 23-year-old daughter began having the same symptoms. Susan decided to take control of her and her daughter's health by enrolling in the Certified Fibromyalgia Advisor training program. She has learned many new strategies, but especially how to ask and get the help she needs from doctors. She lives on the coast of South Carolina with her husband and dog Tucker. Congratulations, Susan. And congratulations again to all of our graduates. All right. Now, I am sure you would love to hear from these ladies directly. And let's get into the juicy part of today's event. This, I know, is why you're here. Every single one of these graduates has been able to improve their fibromyalgia symptoms over the last few months, working with their coach, taking their class. And I would love for you to hear their stories in their own words. I also want to remind you that the information you're going to hear today really is meant to be educational. It is not meant to be medical advice, but we do hope that whatever you hear today might give you some new ideas that you can talk to your doctor about. And after Dr. Ginevra's commencement speech, you know how to bring that information to your doctor and talk with them about which of the things you hear today might be right for you to try. I also want to remind you that the graduates are sharing their personal stories and their own results. So how specific they get with their information will depend, of course, on how comfortable they are sharing their personal medical information publicly. So you may or may not hear the level of details that you want to hear. Just remember, this is their personal medical information, and we want to respect that. Also, I want to remind you, of course, that while we are talking about their personal results and the averages of this class, these symptoms, these experiences may not be the same as you. We are all unique, but we are yet all kind of share similar stories. And therefore, the results that you get doing similar things may or may not get the same results. So take it all with a grain of salt. Take it as new information, as education. Talk with your doctors, and let's dig in. So first, we've got Lisa in Indiana. Congratulations, Lisa.
Thank you, Tammy.
Now, I started with you because I think the main thing we want to talk about really is like the beginning of most of our journeys, right? We get diagnosed with fibromyalgia and it's like a bomb goes off in our lives. Why did this happen to me? You mentioned feeling spiritually unmoored, right? Where there's this existential crisis. Who am I now? Can you talk a little bit about your experience with that?
I'd be happy to. Yeah, so as you mentioned in my bio, I have a background in ministry. And during the time that I started feeling really bad again with fibromyalgia, I was working as a pediatric chaplain at a children's hospital here in Indianapolis. And it was right during COVID. And I worked on the pediatric intensive care unit and with oncology patients. And it was a very difficult time. So the stress level in my work had grown, and I began to notice that my body was not cooperating with me. I had really been working on the job for probably a couple of years, but I had been experiencing fibromyalgia for many years, maybe 20 years. And up until that point, I had taken the 2 or 3 prescribed medications that my doctor prescribed for me that are approved for fibromyalgia, and just kind of barreled through life and tried not to think too much about my symptoms. And but during that really difficult time, I wasn't able to just ignore things anymore. And my symptoms got so bad that one day my body just gave out. And I ended up having to take FMLA and leave my position for some time. I'm now working part-time in the position again, but it really was a good year before I was able to kind of come back into the role. And so you might wonder, well, gosh, a pastor, a chaplain having an existential crisis, a spiritual crisis, how can that be? And yet, I think I've been one of those people that from the time I was a little girl, I have had an interest in what the purpose of our lives are and how to bring meaning into our lives and had a connection with the divine. And however you might define that, maybe it's the wisdom within yourself. But during that time, I absolutely went into my own spiritual crisis where not only was I serving children that were suffering so deeply, I too was experiencing my own suffering. And one day I just came to the point where it was like I hit a wall. And I really spent many months struggling with my faith and my own spirituality, asking those questions like, how could this be happening to me? And now that this is happening to me, who am I now? And what can my life's purpose be?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
I think we've all been there at some point, fibromyalgia really changes how we see ourselves, how we relate with others, how we interact in our lives. And many times, and I don't know if you felt this way, but we feel like I found my thing and then fibromyalgia comes along and takes it away.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It really, it does that. I think for anybody on this panel today speaking, I think we probably all ask the question, I thought I knew who I was, and now I'm a different person. Who am I now? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mhm.
And part of where you went from there was building your healthcare team. And I know your coach,
Yeah.
Robin, was a huge part of that.
Right.
How did
Right.
she help you with this whole, or did she? I'm assuming she did,
Yeah.
but the whole crisis of faith, that existential nature of who am I now and what am I here for?
Yeah. I think, maybe the most important thing that Robin did for me was to hold space for me so that the healing process could unfold. And Robin just has such a grounded way about her and such a deep compassion and kindness that my sense of trusting her from the start, I think, went a long way with how she was able to help me in my process of healing and in helping me to build that healthcare team as you mentioned before. So Robin was instrumental in really coaching me along the way to put together a team of, now that I look at it, maybe like 9 people that I would consider to be part of my team. And, that includes Robin. It also includes a regular psychotherapist. It includes my primary care doctor, a functional medicine physician, a sleep doctor, a neurologist, and I could go on and on. So she helped me to feel confident in reaching out and establishing those relationships, getting those appointments made, and then helped me to reflect on what kinds of things I might need to ask, and to advocate for myself. And then Robin also really understood that I was in spiritual crisis, and it was her encouragement during that time, through the use of some of the work of a person named Kerstin, who some people may know. She wrote a book called Self-Compassion, and it really, through using some of Kerstin Neff's work and working with Robin, some of the exercises that she did, I was able to really reconnect with myself and with my purpose in life, and to come back home to myself each and every day, and to celebrate what Robin would call my to-dos, because I had a big to-do list, trying to keep this to-do list together for my fibro brain. And Robin kept reminding me, every time you check something off of that to-do list, it's like a ta-da. And so really celebrating all those little things that went into finally being able to say that I'm feeling so much better than I was. Yeah.
I love that. The to-do list.
Yes, the to-do list.
Oh, that's awesome. And I think it's so interesting that you talk about Robin helping you with this, because I remember when she graduated as an advisor, one of the things that she talked about in her graduation was her healthcare team, and how it used to be something that she was almost embarrassed that she had to have so many people. And now it's something that she's actually really proud of, that she gets to have all these people.
Right. Absolutely. I feel really lucky that I have a team that I consider to all be on my team, they're my cheerleaders. And it's made a big difference in my life, for sure.
Absolutely. So speaking of big differences, you
Yes.
had one of the highest improvements in class, 63% improvement in your Fibromyalgia Impact Questionnaire score, going from moderate down to very mild. And I know people want to know, what did you do?
What did I do? Well, there's so many things that I did. And I know that you mentioned, Tammy, kind of those 4 main areas that, or symptoms of fibromyalgia. And one of the things that I tried to do during the class and during my coaching was to be able to address each of those symptoms in some way. And so that healthcare team that I put together was very helpful and instrumental in being able to address all of those things. But I would say some of the top things that I did were I got a sleep study done, and discovered that I do have a sleep apnea, which is very common for people with fibromyalgia, like 45% of people, I think. And so I started using a CPAP machine, and that has really helped to improve my level of sleep, my deep sleep, and the quality of my sleep, which in turn affects, my fatigue, and then my fibro fog and my pain levels. And so it's kind of a positive spiral, I would say.
Yeah.
I also started seeing a functional medicine physician, and this is somebody that has helped me to get a lot of testing done. And in that testing, I discovered that I have a gluten sensitivity, that my iron levels were low, that my omega-3s were low, and some other things. And so I went on a gluten-free diet. I started taking some supplements that have made a big difference. And so, and I'm going to be having a follow-up appointment with her. I highly recommend seeing a functional medicine physician if possible. She spent a lot of time with me, at least an hour and 15 minutes on that first appointment. And I have another one coming up, and that's an extended appointment, like what Dr. Ginevra was speaking about. I think another thing that I started taking with one of the people on my team, my physiatrist, who's a pain specialist, she started me on low dose naltrexone, which is something that I get from a compounding pharmacy, and you have to take it for a long time before you start to see the effects of it. But it really is one of these medications that I think if more doctors knew about it, it could really make a difference in people's lives. And so that was a big one for me. And then I think the other piece has to do with pacing. This is something that I learned both in class and through coaching. It's really about understanding how much energy I have to expend each day and pacing myself throughout the day with frequent rest and leaving, about 20% of my energy for the healing process itself, because as we learned in class, we know that healing takes energy. And so if we don't have any energy left at the end of the day, we won't have any energy we can put towards our healing for our bodies to heal. And so that has been an instrumental piece in my feeling so much better than I was when all of this started.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And yeah, you mentioned a lot of really good things in there. Low dose naltrexone. I think of that as the best fibro med your doctor doesn't know about because
I
so
agree.
few doctors really do. So just real quick for people who are wondering, what the heck is that? The best resource I have for you for LDN is a website, LDN for low dose naltrexone, ldnresearchtrust.org. There's information you can share with your doctor and information for you. So awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing all of that, Lisa, and for just so fully engaging in class and in coaching and taking advantage of that. Is there any last words you'd like to say to the people who are listening?
I would say to anybody that is feeling like that dark night of the soul, like you're going through a spiritual crisis or a crisis of faith, whatever that looks like for you, know that you have, there are resources out there for you, and that there is light at the end of the journey. I'm still on it. I'll be on it for the rest of my life, but I really do believe that it's possible to heal and to find yourself again and your relationship with that which is greater than yourself. I believe in that, and I would just encourage you to not lose hope.
Yeah. I feel that. Thank you so much, Lisa, and thank you for sharing that, and congratulations.
Thank you so much.
And next up, we are going to travel over to Georgia and meet Kim. Hi, Kim. Congratulations.
Thank you.
So I have you next on our interviews because just kind of thinking about everything we're going to be talking about today, like what you went through is kind of like the next thing that happens for many of us, which is like, okay, I've got fibromyalgia. Now, how am I going to fix this? Right? I'm going to go learn all I can. I'm going to learn everything I can about healthy eating, about good movement. And here you are, a health coach and a yoga instructor. You want to talk a little bit about that process for you?
Sure. Because I was still floundering, with all of the knowledge. And it started with the diagnosis. The diagnosis came, though, years after, a lot of pain, not knowing what it was. But much like Lisa, you just have to keep going. And until this, I didn't realize that Lisa and I had such a shared history with pediatric oncology. And
I've been telling you too, you needed to connect.
I'll definitely be sharing some with her, talking, because I just didn't realize that was such a strong connection. And I think that's probably when I can first remember my symptoms, was in 2005, when my son was going through cancer treatment. But then I continued to stay in the pediatric oncology world and nonprofit. And there are people who are counting on you, and you just keep going. So we fast forward through the years, the pain, the struggle, get the diagnosis, and it really still felt like a shock. And when I got the diagnosis from just the most compassionate rheumatologist, and as we talked and shared, the 3 drugs that are FDA approved for fibromyalgia were not a good fit for me. And so I said, so what do we do here? What do we, and he said, I don't know, honestly, I think maybe yoga might be a good idea, and let's attack this but he was very honest, and I really don't know how to help you. But maybe this is a good place to start. And so I was very fortunate, very, very fortunate to find an instructor who was willing to work with me in a special way through the 200 hours of training to become that. And at the same time, doing the health coaching so that I could learn more about nutrition. And so what was happening was my lab work looked better than ever before, but I was getting, and by lab work, I mean, just the standard yearly things you're getting.
Right. Your cholesterol, your all of that kind of stuff.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I was feeling it was getting worse. There were times that it was better, but then it was getting worse. And by last summer, I was just in a place that I thought, there's got to be more. There's got to be more. And so that's when I came across the podcast and started listening shortly after you and I had the conversation. And I realized that I really needed a team. I needed some help to work with this. And there were resources out there for someone who was looking for their answers in the way I was. And so that just made all the difference in the world, because I still believe that movement and what I eat is so strongly connected with how I'm going to feel later on today, tomorrow, and in the future. But it's not the whole piece of the puzzle. They are just that. They're just pieces.
Mm-hmm. And one of the things you and I talked about was, you were focusing on the nutrition piece of things, but didn't really realize that your body wasn't in a place where it could utilize what you were giving it.
Yes. I wasn't absorbing. It was a lot of frustration, to be quite honest, because I was working really hard at it. And when I made these changes, 7 years ago, my husband and I both made these changes, and he quickly saw a lot of results. He lost 60 pounds.
I know these guys, they do that right? So easy. It's it's not cool.
I gained 10.
Tell them don't give you any. That's not right.
But we were just doing so much. So again, they were really good things for parts of us, but it just wasn't enough. Right. And ironically, as I began to listen to my body more, which is something that I also had Dr. Robin Pfaff as a coach, and learning how to listen to what my body needed versus saying, hey, we're going to have 8 servings of vegetables today, and we're going to do 45 minutes of yoga. Instead, asking my body, hey, what do you need? And being more intuitive. We began to do things like incorporating in the farmer's market, making that a part of our lifestyle, fun, eating just again, more intuitively. And ironically, my very good, healthy numbers have even dropped more. So in November, I had a lipid panel, the cholesterol, just got my results on Monday from my July panel, and my triglycerides dropped by over 40%. And
Wow.
yet, and I already, again, had great healthy numbers, but it's just kind of funny to me how I was been trying so hard in this one area. And when I just relaxed back on it, looked at everything as this more of a shotgun approach, right? That even those numbers got better.
Oh, that's awesome. I didn't know that because, of course, you just got them. So that's fantastic. One of the things that you said when we were doing your final interview, and I love this phrase, and I know people will be able to relate to it, was that you had shut down your body's voice.
Mhm.
And that was one of the things that Robin had kind of helped you start to listen again.
Yes, yes. And again, I think that's rooted in that, the attitude of just like soldiering through. We just have things to get done, and everyone's hurting in some way. And especially when you had been working with people, with children who are hurting, you just keep going. And, it just really, it changed. I thought I knew what self-compassion was. I remember when Robin first approached it with me in a talk, and I was like, yeah, I totally think I have that down. And she's like, do you really know what it is? do you treat yourself the way you would treat someone that you love and are responsible for? Do you ask yourself what you need? And I was like, no, I pretty much tell myself what I'm going to do each day. So it was just that I also benefited from Dr. Neff's book, and opening that up and allowing to be compassionate to myself, asking my body what it needed, turning that volume back up between the body and the brain.
Right. We kind of check out from here down, just because we've got things we have to do. And we got to do them, right? But it's really that tuning back in where we can actually start to get better and really be honest about how we really are right now in the body you have today.
Yes.
Yeah.
I really struggled with that. I think when you hurt so much for so long, you do turn that volume down with the body, right? But I also did feel like I was not being quite honest about how bad it was, right? I think I shared with you that when I took the first questionnaire, Robin, she called me up and she was like, Kim, this just doesn't match with what's going on, and it was, my life was getting smaller and smaller. And I wasn't really being honest about how much impact fibromyalgia was having.
Yes, I see that. And I don't remember if it was you I was having this conversation with, but I have had this conversation often. One of the things on the Fibromyalgia Impact Questionnaire is stuff like, how hard is it to vacuum, for instance? It's like, do I mark this as a 0? It's not hard because I don't do it. Or is this a 10 because I don't do it because it's hard, right? And it's like that your life shrinking and not doing those things that are hard kind of, sometimes makes you a little out of touch with how you're really doing, right?
Yes. I wasn't vacuuming. I wasn't traveling. It was a lot of things had just, I wasn't working full time anymore. Things just really had shrunk down.
Right. And you started the class at 49, which is pretty average. I mean, average is like 58, so you're a little better than average. But you ended the class at 27, which is a 46% improvement. And I remember we've talked often about the fact that you were worried you were gonna mess up our averages. and not do as well at the end because you had a little bit of a busy May, like me.
Yes. But what was really incredible about this? May was bananas, and I had learned how to manage energy, right? And my calendar, And I kept looking at the May calendar and go, oh, it's going to be a doozy. So I'm going to try to put in as much margin. I had a lot of, good things, good ideas going. And then some unexpected things happened in May as well. And I began to experience a very significant flare up. But you know what? Because of the coaching, because of the class, because of beginning to work with a functional medicine practitioner, I knew that if I just kept doing the things that I had already put into place and allowed myself to rest, because, rest is taking up a lot of that energy, allowed myself to rest, it would come back. What I didn't expect was just how quick, like when it came back, it was just, I just felt wonderful again. And I will say this, I entered the class feeling a lot better than I had in fall, because I had started working with Robin in October. So by the time we started the class, I felt like I already had a bit of an advantage, because in the fall, I had truly just been floundering, so much. And now I just feel like I'm flourishing, it's just,
I can see it on
life
your
is so
face.
much better. Yeah.
Yeah, that's so fantastic. So you've talked about a few of the things that you've done, like your work with Robin, managing your energy, working with a functional medicine doctor. But what are some of the other things that helped you improve so much?
So I want to say, for me, the biggest thing was to draw back and to look at the big picture. And instead of just focusing on those two things, my little wheelhouse there, I began to think about it. And if I could find 20 things that helped 5%. And so you're right, there's some broad strokes there with functional medicine and coaching and, the self-compassion, the energy budget, that those things take time to develop. But then in class, you taught us that fibromyalgia actually has mitochondrial dysfunction. And with that, for some of us, our body it does not have what it needs to give us the energy we need all day. So there were some helpful supplements there. And there were a couple that you gave us. I checked in with my functional medicine practitioner and said, what do you think about this? And very specifically for me, it was CoQ10 in the active form of ubiquinol. Taking one every day was almost an immediate change for me in terms of energy. And so I'm so grateful, because we do have the things that we work on and they take time. But then because of the education, the things I learned in class, being able to take those things back to my doctor and put things right into place, that was huge for me.
Yes. And, this is such a good example of, there is a lot of commonalities in fibromyalgia, right? Like we do know that for a lot of people, there is mitochondrial dysfunction, but not everything works the same for everybody, because I think I tried ubiquinol about the same time you did, and it actually did nothing for me. So, so for you listening, if you have tried something and it didn't work, that just means it wasn't your thing. There's more things to try.
There's a lot more things to try. And that was the beauty of the course, was learning just such in-depth things that even if I have these extended sessions, say with my functional medicine practitioner, we were spending so much time together each week getting that information that I was just able to better utilize of my time with her, and bringing in, like Dr. Ginevra said, when you bring in very specific things, or what do you think about this? And she is a part of my team. I know my body better, and she knows medicine better. But I had the education from you and from Robin to go, to kind of bridge that gap. And I'm excited because, again, just had the session with her this past week, and to be able to see the change, on this molecular level, pretty cool. But I'm also now a candidate for the low dose naltrexone, and get to start on that next week. So
it's fun.
Yeah, it is. It's just such a journey. And when you have a team aspect and you have lots of choices, right, to try, and you have encouragement, I had never heard of low dose naltrexone before the podcast. Right. And like you said, it's the best medicine your doctor doesn't know about. Before I was with my functional medicine practitioner, I had taken that in to my rheumatologist, and he had no idea how to use that with fibromyalgia patients. And so again, I love bringing something, though, some education, because if I am able to get that help and then have this communication, they're now going to be able to help more of their patients when they learn.
Right. Excuse me. This is one of the things when we get to Penny, maybe we'll talk a little bit about this, but because I taught Penny and Penny helped a client of hers, that client then shared with her physical therapist. And now that physical therapist is like, oh, hey, I think I have another patient, and this is somebody that we aren't even connected to, right? Like the 7 degrees of separation, it's such a cool thing to just watch that grow and spread.
And that's
And
what
more
it's
people
all
being
about.
helped.
Yeah, it's that helping more people, because if there are so many of us out there, I can relate to the frustration that so many of them feel, and just living with this, maybe feeling like they've lost hope after so many years of trying different things. It's really good to just kind of keep going out there as light bearers. And I saw a GYN for my yearly this week. And right when she walked in the room, she was like, "You look so different than this time last year. What have you done? What is going on?"
I love that.
Yeah. And so she said the same thing. I want to introduce, some of my patients to you, because I don't have enough time and the right education to help them. And so we can just all go out there and do our part.
I love that so much. That's why we're here. Anything you want to say to you may have already said it, but anything else you want to add for the people who are listening?
I'd say just don't wait to get help, and don't settle for it to be just one thing. Maybe don't put all your eggs in one basket. Maybe, if you are in the struggle, start with listening to the podcast, reading the books. Those are great places to start. But man, it's so much information. It's just so helpful to have a coach or to join this advisor course to see how to put all that into place and to have someone guiding you through it. I'm really grateful for both the course, but also for my work with Robin.
Yes, absolutely. I'm such a fan of coaching because it was having a coach that changed my life. It just having that person by your side to help make sense of things, bounce ideas off of, encourage you, hold you accountable, all of that. It's just so magical. So thanks so much, Kim, and congratulations on all your hard work and not bringing our average down.
Thank you, Tammy.
All right. And now we are off to North Dakota. Hello, Connie. Congratulations.
Hello. Thank you.
Now, you were the star of our advisor class. You improved your Fibromyalgia Impact Questionnaire score by 87%. You started with one of the highest scores I've had and ended with one of the lowest scores I had. So that was really impressive. And one of the things you said to me in your final interview was, you said, it's probably like talking to a different person. How do you feel now compared to when you started?
Well, I feel a lot different. I've always had chronic illnesses. So it just really, the beginning of this year, the end of last year, things started to really pile up. And I felt out of control. And now I feel so good. And I don't have pain. I don't have headaches. I feel totally different. My anxiety and stress level is very low. And so I am a different person.
That's amazing, Connie. You know, I'll be honest, when we first met and you were talking about taking the class, there was a piece of me that was worried because you had so much going on and you were so symptomatic. I was like, oh gosh, I hope we can help. And now here you are. That's just amazing.
Very thankful.
Now, how did your coach Brenda help you with all of this? Because I know she's been a huge piece of this too.
She has, just when we first met, we just bonded right away. She's very, I trusted her right away. It was very easy to talk to each other during our sessions, which usually were an hour, sometimes a little bit more. She'd always go over the things that we talked about last week. So she wanted to make me accountable so I could answer those questions that, yes, I tried this, or yes, I contacted this person, or I found out this test result. So just making me accountable was a really big factor, because sometimes when you have so much going on, you don't even remember what things you're supposed to check. So that was really good. And setting goals. We set a goal every week. I wasn't a big goal setter before, and I could see how that really helped. And then I was still really struggling with both my stress and anxiety levels. And then we really started to dig into what was causing that, what the main factor was. And it did come down to, I have a private practice, a bookkeeping business, and some of the clients are just more stressful or take more time than others because of their needs. And it just came to the point where, she would recommend that, maybe you should look into not doing this or not doing so much. And then finally one morning I just woke up and thought, she's right. Why do I keep doing this to myself? And I actually resigned from that position, and it was unreal, the load that came off my shoulders. I just felt better, like right away. I just was more relaxed. Of course, I still had symptoms and stuff. But then I also added to my care team. I had seen so many physicians in the past with different illnesses that, I really felt that I probably had seen everybody I needed to see. Right. And it was really hard to talk with them to get them to understand what you're going through. I always took notes and I shared past information, but maybe I wasn't able to really get it across to them correctly. And so as I added to my care team, and I did get a sleep study at that point, I didn't need a CPAP, but I am low in oxygen. So that does really help me get my oxygen levels up. And then it was probably the next thing was, self-care. When you talked about self-care, I thought I took care of myself. But then I realized I was really in denial to what it really meant to take care of yourself. And I took care of others, and I always wanted to do the best for them. But sometimes you just kind of I would ignore what my needs really were. Mm-hmm. How much sleep I needed, how much, sometimes I just would sit in the chair all day because I couldn't move. Everything just hurt. And, I went to a therapist, a cognitive behavior therapist. I went to several physical therapists. Water activity always was something that did help me. So it helped me to keep going and doing water therapy or water aerobics at least twice a week. And that was just so beneficial to me because I was just in a zone. I was so relaxed and just thoroughly enjoyed that. So then with my self-care as well, I always felt that I really couldn't, people would ask like, what's going on with you? Or, But how do you really explain that to a friend or a family member? I mean, it's a huge story, and I didn't really quite understand it well enough. I had the diagnosis for a long time, but I didn't know how to tell others what I was going through. So with the help of a functional medicine doctor, I mean, we took a lot of tests in our first appointment. I think it was 3 hours long, the first appointment, and it was unreal, everything that we covered. And it took her a little bit to compile like all the tests that I needed. But she had recommended, before I even got the results, to start to do an autoimmune protocol diet. It's an AIP diet, and to really try my best to avoid gluten, dairy, eggs, and less sugar. And as soon as I took that serious right away. I mean, I went home and I thought, if this is one thing that might give me some automatic relief while we're waiting for other things, I'm going to do it. And it helped so much. I wasn't bloated. I didn't have stomach pain. Just a lot of things that go on with the person. It helped me feel so much better and so much happier. And I could start to focus on things. And then we found out that I also had conversion issues. I've had thyroid issues since I was like 20 years old. So that's quite a few years. And my thyroid wasn't converting. And so I am now on an NP thyroid, which is that pig thyroid. And within a few days, I could tell the difference that I didn't have to convert from that T4 to T3. I already had the T3 I needed. And then I was on some pretty strong rheumatoid arthritis medication, and my rheumatologist wanted me to take folic acid with it just to kind of help through that. And I found out, well, I wasn't converting the folic acid to what I needed. So then I went to a liquid form, and I'm really kind of interested in what my next liver function will look like, because some of my percentages were getting kind of not in that good of a range. So I was really concerned about that, and if I could overcome that.
That's great. That's great. And that kind of touches a little bit on what Kim was just talking about with not being able to utilize the nutrition that she was giving herself, right?
Yep, definitely.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Also intermediate fasting. I'm still doing that. Sometimes the hours get a little bit longer than I first started, but that has also been very good for me. So it's kind of a snacker, and we don't need I didn't need all that snacking.
I see.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great though. I mean, just watching the difference in you, like your energy levels, everything has changed so much for you. And you worked really hard at that. That was something that Brenda and I actually just talked about was, just how you were like, okay, if I'm going to do this thing, I'm going to do it. Right. And really just trying everything you could and doing it the best that you could do it,
Yeah. And Brenda would ask me, like, are you overwhelmed? Do you need to just kind of cut down the things you're doing? But I just took it in stride. And since I didn't have to work so many hours, I was able to think about, okay, this is what I'm going to eat today, or how to make healthier things, because gluten, dairy, and eggs are part of everyone's diet every day, probably every meal. So it was very challenging to see what I could use, what I could eat, but it really has made a difference. So it's getting easier.
Good. And it does with practice, I'm sure there's people listening thinking, oh my gosh, if I cut out bread and dairy, we start with, cereal and milk in the morning, and, maybe have a grilled cheese sandwich and then have pizza or pasta for day. Like it's dairy and gluten all day long.
Yep. All day long. Yes. And just to make sure you get enough vegetables and fruit. And I like to eat beef and chicken and fish. So we have a variety, turkey. And so it makes, I eat a lot of meat, but I always have things with it.
Hey, whatever works, you know. I mean, that saying that used to always go around about dieting, like nothing tastes as good as being thin feels, you know. But that really is true when it comes to our fibromyalgia, right? Nothing tastes as good as you feel right now.
Right. Yeah. And plus I had a bonus that I've lost quite a few pounds. So I hadn't been able to lose any weight. So that is just another kind of a really joyful feeling.
Yes. And, you know, if your body isn't utilizing those things, if you're still having symptoms of low thyroid because you're not converting properly, you know, all of those things are going to make it really hard to lose weight. So I just want to say for the people listening, if you didn't understand all that thyroid stuff Connie and I were talking about, this is stuff that we cover in the class. There's also been a podcast episode recently, so like within the last 10 episodes. So if you go to the podcast, I'll try to remember to include a link in the email we send out after the event, but there's an episode where you can learn more about thyroid stuff, but it is a big piece for a lot of people. So, yeah. Anything you want to say, Connie, to the people who are listening, just kind of wrap that up? When I was at the point that I was just searching for something that I just needed to do to help myself, excuse me, I did come along Tammy's podcasts. I listened to several podcasts. I was amazed at some of the things that were being talked about and how much knowledge I gained from them. So then I actually did plan a consultation with Tammy. It was probably, you know, I was hesitant, but it was, my husband supported me and said, you have to get better. So let's try it. And it definitely worked. I am so happy that I followed through and did it. Oh, I'm so happy too, Connie. Oh my goodness. Virtual hug.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, congratulations again, Connie. And I can't wait to see where you go from here.
Yes, me too. Thank you.
All right. Next up, we've got Susan. We're going to South Carolina. I know Kim's in Georgia and you're in South Carolina, but you guys actually aren't that far apart, are you?
No, we're not. We're close.
And that's awesome. Now, I know when you and I first met, you had actually already tried a lot of things that didn't help, a lot of hard things that didn't help, especially after 15 years dealing with chronic illnesses. Can you share a little bit of that?
Yeah, sure. So I went to several integrative doctors who they were not able to write prescriptions. So most of this was just done all natural, but the first one had me on the AIP diet that Connie's on. And they had me on that for close to 8 months. And that was very difficult for me, but I'm one of those that, again, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it. And I stuck to it and did all the things that they asked me to do. And I got some better, but not completely. And so I think I saw that doctor for about 1.5 years. And then the next doctor that I kind of gave up for a little bit. But then I had a friend who had fibro and she also had lupus. And so a friend connected me with her and she recommended a different integrative doctor. And she's raved about how much better she got with him. And so I went, and this time they put me on the Whole30 diet. And that one wasn't quite as hard as the AIP, but it was still pretty hard. And it was only 30 days. And again, I felt some better, but they just really didn't get to the root of my problems. And even though I kept saying, you know, I still don't feel great. And so then from there, because
those were very expensive. I started going to just regular doctors where my insurance covered it. And I went from doctor to doctor to doctor. And my constant complaint was always, I'm so fatigued. I'm so tired. I just can't. I was a kindergarten teacher. You need a
That
lot
takes
of
energy.
a lot of energy.
Oh my goodness.
And I can remember just sitting, at my little teacher table with my little group of children and, trying to focus on the reading, a lesson we were doing. And I was just thinking to myself, if I could just lay down on this nasty, dirty carpet and take a nap, I feel so much better. But I couldn't, and I would kind of like just push myself to do things because I had to. And when you're teaching little children, you don't have time to think about yourself. And by the end of the day at 2:30, I was just like, oh my gosh, I'm so tired. And it started getting really bad toward the end of my career, where I would go home from school. I'd get home by about 4 or 5 o'clock. I'd lay down and take a nap and not wake up till the next morning and do it all again. And I do that every single day. And then Saturday, I pretty much laid on the couch all day. And then maybe if I was lucky, Sunday, my husband and I could go do something together. And we were newly married. I was divorced and had remarried while I was sick, and it just kept getting worse and worse. And I ended up retiring a year early from teaching because I just couldn't do it. And the other thing I was struggling with was the brain fog. The brain fog was very hard for me. They're, trying to interact with other teachers with collaborative things where I used to be, so full of ideas. And now all of a sudden I can't even comprehend what this person is saying to me. And it was frustrating. But yeah, I retired a year early, and I thought that by relieving the stress that would help, but it helped some, but not enough. And I moved to the coast and started feeling bad again. And I just decided I can't do this anymore. I'm not even 60 yet, and I feel like I'm 90. So I found your podcast and then took the class, and I feel so much better. I've learned a lot of new techniques and strategies, and they were so much easier to do. All those hard diets.
It's so funny because as you've been talking about the things that you tried, it's almost exactly what Connie just said worked for her.
Yes,
right. And so
it didn't work for me.
And it's just another example of how that wasn't the thing you needed.
Right.
For whatever reason, that didn't fix whatever was going on for your body. And that's what makes fibromyalgia so hard, is that there isn't just a one size fits all recipe for getting better. You have to find your own. So what were some of the things that actually did work for you that you learned in class or from your coach? Because you had an awesome coach too.
Right. My coach helped me tremendously, just talking through things, especially it's gotten a lot better, a lot of anxiety. And when I was in a flare, I wouldn't sleep very good. And then I would just start blowing a lot of things way out of proportion. I would just look at things like, oh, what is the point? I can't do anything. And she's like, that's because you don't have any sleep, and you're in pain, your brain is inflamed, this isn't you, and she was just a really big cheerleader for me, and really suggesting a lot of things for me to do. The counting the steps, keeping up with that. I have a part-time job where parts of the job, I have to do a lot of walking and a lot of steps. And then there's another aspect of my job where it's not as much. So she really encouraged me to reach out to my boss and say, can can I just do this part of the job? And she was fine with that. And so I was able to keep it in the budget that I felt worked good for me. And that has helped tremendously. Also getting the sleep meds that I needed. I think that was a huge key. Was actually, now I see a functional medicine doctor, same one that Kim sees, and she can write prescriptions. And so just, by knowing what things to ask for, I was able to ask for the meds that I felt would help, and been kind of playing with that. And I feel I'm getting better sleep than what I was getting before.
Mm-hmm.
And let's see what else. Oh, adding protein to my diet. That was another thing Julie tipped me off to before we got to that.
Yeah.
And that has helped. And doing making me time. So when I'm feeling stressed, I kind of told her what time of day I started to kind of have issues, and she's like, well, I want you to stop during this time. And I love to do knitting and sewing. And she said, I want you to put that on your schedule every day at this time, you're going to do this. And that has helped to just kind of calm the nervous system down. And I have not had a panic attack in probably over a month. And I've even started to wean off my anxiety medication.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yes.
That's awesome. I totally agree with Julie. Like, if you're not getting good sleep, it is really easy to get wound up and think the worst of things. And I have to tell myself that sometimes, it always happens to me when I'm getting ready for bed and brushing my teeth. Right. And, and I start thinking of all the things that I have to do or haven't done, or, all of this stuff. I'm like, it's okay. You're tired. I have to, like, my inner kindergartner, right? It's okay. You just need a nap. You just need to go to sleep. Here's a cookie. Here's your fuzzy banky. Oh, that's amazing.
And I think the self-care also was something I've never put myself first before. It's always been taking care of, either my kindergarten children or my own personal children, or, my marriage, my family, whatever. And I was always last on the list. And so I give myself permission now to do things specifically for me. And if I'm not feeling good, I don't feel guilty about it anymore. I just tell my husband, go on, go to the pool, go, whatever it is, we were planning to do. And he knows I'm not feeling well. And so he'll just check in on me, but he knows to just go. Because if he just sits around, then I feel bad. But
Right. Exactly. And being able to communicate that a little bit better, it just makes such a big difference. So you started the class at 55 was your score. So right in that moderate range, ended the class at 28. So it was a 48% improvement. What do you think made the biggest difference for you there? I know you mentioned a bunch of things already, but.
Yeah, I think the sleep.
Yeah.
And then also taking my pain medication daily. I used to think pain was not my issue until I learned in your class that if I'm at a 4 or above, then my pain is not managed. And I thought pain not being managed was if I'm screaming in a 9 or a 10. And that's usually when I would take my pain medication. But by taking it daily, I also am on the low dose naltrexone, and that's helped a lot.
Yes.
And now that I'm not in pain daily, I feel like I have more energy, that I'm happier, that my frame of mind is just much better.
Yes. We forget how exhausting being in pain can be.
Yes.
Right. Even if it's a low level of pain, it's like droning on in the background, and it just can be so exhausting. And pain is like, I was just talking to somebody about this. Pain's like a runaway train. Once it gets away from you, it is really hard to get it back under control. But if you can stay on top of it, it's a whole lot easier.
Right.
Yeah. That's fabulous. Well, congratulations. Anything you want to share with the people who are listening that you haven't shared yet?
Just not to give up.
Yeah.
I had many times after, every doctor and spending a lot of money that I'd be like, I just can't do this anymore. This is just how life is, it's just going to suck. and it's, by doing this class, it's gotten so much better for me.
Yeah. Oh, that's so good. It's true. We get to that point where like, well, I guess this is as good as it gets.
Yeah.
Right. And it doesn't matter. Like even, Connie with her score of 9, there, unless it's 0, there's still something we can work on. So don't give up ever.
Exactly.
Well, congratulations again, Susan. So proud of all the work that you did.
Thank you. And thank you for your class.
You're so welcome. All right. And now we're going to go to Lauren, who is normally in Maryland, but that is not where you are right now.
No, it's not.
Do you want to share?
I am currently on vacation in Aruba, which is what this lovely picture is behind me.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So you were diagnosed in 2020 in the middle of all of that craziness. And you said in your bio that you hired your coach, Julie, pretty much right away. So what was that like as a newly diagnosed person having a coach on your team? Most people, the coach comes along after. So I'm curious what your thoughts are with that.
Yes. Well, in 2020, when I was first diagnosed, it was the fall, and I had already been homeschooling my 2 little kids who were, I think, 2 and 4 at the time. And just, I hadn't realized I had been living with so much pain because it had come on so gradually. But having them home and me home with them 24/7 kind of amplified everything. So I was going to all the doctors, trying different things. Of course, I was doing everything telemedicine because at the time, none of us were going into the offices. So when I got the diagnosis, I was like, finally, I have a name for it. And one of the first things I did is I went home and I Googled, and one of my, it was actually my sister-in-law recently was diagnosed with something else, and she was talking about how wonderful a podcast was that she found. So one of the first things I did when I Googled is I said, let's find a fibromyalgia podcast. And Tammy Stackelhouse came up.
Amazingly called the Fibromyalgia Podcast.
It was serendipity. So I immediately started listening, and between that first appointment and getting that diagnosis to, I think it was 2 weeks later when I was confirmed my diagnosis, I had realized that I had learned so much more in that 2-week time that I already knew more than my rheumatologist did about fibromyalgia. So I was like, okay, well, I got to do something and I got to figure it out fast because I'm the 2 little ones who need me to care for them, and I can't care for them if I am not healthy myself. So I heard about coaches, obviously, through the podcast. And so I reached right out to Tammy and was looking, sorry, my alarm went off. Excuse me for that. But see, Fibro Brain, I have to have alarms for everything instead of relying on memory.
Yep.
So one of the first things I heard was actually Julie on the podcast. She had just graduated from the class and was talking about how she had raised her children through having fibromyalgia. And that really resonated with me. And I reached out to you, Tammy, and said, hey, I'd like to connect with someone, maybe someone like Julie. And so that was the click. And so when I met up with Julie, it was, we're like instant best friends. We're like the same person, really. So it was great to meet her, find someone who I could relate to having fibromyalgia, because I at the time, I had never known anyone with fibromyalgia. So it was nice to have someone who understood what I was going through, the daily struggles. And then on top of that, parenting. And guiding me, she helped in so many different ways that I can't even imagine, but in, saying in words, putting into words. But she really made me realize I need to slow down. I need to take care of myself, and that taking care of myself is important, because just like when you're on an airplane, you need to help yourself with the oxygen mask before you can help your child put the oxygen mask on. So I really took that to heart, and she helped me. Honestly, it was like a crash course without taking your course. She told me all of the information right up front. I didn't have to do the research myself. I didn't have to read all the thousands of books that Tammy, you have read. So she just gave me all the information that I needed to be able to get better the quickest I could possibly get. And, kind of hold my hand through going to all the different specialists and building my team of specialists. And, also just not feeling guilty for, I can't do the things that I used to do, or looking at those things differently, finding the joy in those things, and saying, like, I used to be an avid swing dancer, and I loved swing dancing. It was one of the things that my husband and I bonded over when we first met. And that hurt me now. And I was like, who am I if I can't do that? But she taught me to look at what are the things about it that give me joy, and what other things could we bring into your life that are maybe easier on your body, but could still fill those buckets of joy. So that was super, super helpful. And even, I kind of graduated from coaching with her. We still kept in touch. I could still ask her questions, and she was just amazing. And then, she always said, once I started getting better, I think you'd make an amazing coach. You should really think about it when the time comes. So I decided, my littles in this fall coming in September, both of them will be in school full time. So I said, you know what? I think I want to be a coach. I want to be that person for somebody else, or hopefully many other people. So I got to reconnect with her through the class. I got to do some coaching again with her, which was different this time around because I already knew most of the information. So it was really much more of a refresher. I had realized that I had fallen back into some of my old habits, and I was hiding some of my pain again. And even though I felt like I had awakened to that, I was still doing it again. So getting back to the basics and tracking my pain, my fatigue levels, and my step counts, I realized that I needed to get back to starting some things over again. And that really, it was kind of like hitting that reset button. And it also helped me with getting into school again and having homework, and being able to still juggle all the things of my life that I needed to juggle. And that it's okay to not be perfect all the time.
Right. Which sounds funny when you say it, but yet we've all been there.
Yes.
It's funny. Your coach and I talk often about the fact that coaching is kind of our secret weapon, right? Like you were talking about working with your coach, doing the things you needed to do, but then kind of backsliding a little bit off of that. And I think that is so easy to do. Knowing what to do, that's the easy part in many cases. But actually doing it like day after day when you don't want to, that's the hard part. And for me, being a coach is what helps keep me on the path I need to stay on. So, yeah, that's awesome. So
Julie
you and
has
I
definitely shared that with me.
Yeah. So your Fibromyalgia Impact Questionnaire score, you started off at a 56, you ended at a 46, which is only 10 points and 18%. And we say only, I'm putting that in quotes, because that's actually still better than a lot of some of the fibromeds will do for people. So even though it's not, 78% or 87% like Connie, 18% is still really good. So how does that feel in your body? 18% improvement. How different do you feel?
I'm going to say not a whole bunch, but, I started out when I first met and got connected with Julie at a much different place. So if I had gone straight into your class, it would have been a completely different story. But I think I started your class at a better spot than a lot of other people normally do. So I'm not surprised, but I do know that in going through the class, I still learned several other things that are more kind of complicated, more things that are in the works that I'm still trying to do that will hopefully continue my healing and I'll get even better. But yeah, I wish it were down to 0, just like everybody.
But that's okay. This is just the first 3 months of this process, right? You're going on into the coach class. We're going to be together for another year. You're going to be able to see even bigger improvements. And for you, one of the biggies is going to be having your littles in school and having some of that time during the day for yourself to actually be able to do some of these things, right?
Yes. Yeah, one of my largest struggles is finding the time to do all of the self-care things.
Yeah. Well, good job. And I can't wait to continue with you. Congratulations as a certified fibromyalgia advisor. And y'all come back in a year. We will see her and some of the other ladies graduating as coaches. So enjoy Aruba.
Hey, thank you, Tammy. Thanks.
All right. Now let's go on to Penny. Penny, when we met, you were in North Carolina?
North Carolina.
Okay.
North Carolina.
And now you're in Oregon. Penny moved to Portland, which has actually been super fun for me because I got to give you all the names of all my good people to go see, which has been awesome.
Yes. A huge advantage for me.
Yeah. So
advantage.
I always say Portland is the best place to be if you have fibromyalgia. That's where Dr. Ginevra is. A bunch of other people are there that have been super, super helpful for me. So Penny, you started your advisor class at 59 for your score. You ended the coach class. You are graduating here today. And granted, that's been about 2 years because we had COVID in the middle and moving and a bunch of stuff. But you ended at a 5, as in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
5. Yes.
92% improvement, basically symptom-free. Let's talk about that.
Pretty close to symptom-free. I would say that not every day am I symptom-free.
For sure.
But for the majority of the time, especially in comparison to where I was 2.5 years ago. Like, this is a walk in the park, literally, or a hike up a mountain, or a bicycle ride, which is just all the exciting things that I am back to doing now that I couldn't do for so long.
That's amazing. So what do you think has been the most helpful for you? What are some of the things that you've done to get to that 92%? What haven't you done?
Yeah, there's a really, really long list of things that I have tried. And it's funny listening to everyone else. I'm like, yeah, I did that. Yeah, I did that. Yeah, I did that. I'm like, getting to my diagnosis was a long time period. I'm totally gluten intolerant. That removed some of my pain. That was all before the advisor course. And then the advisor course, I improved greatly to the point where, like, I did a sprint triathlon. It was fabulous. And then
I don't think I knew you did that.
I did. Yes.
Oh my goodness.
And so in May of the year that I did, so May 2019, I did a sprint triathlon and I graduated from the advisor course in July. Yeah. So,
Amazing.
and then I tanked.
And during that was the move and a bunch of other stuff
And
too,
then I
right?
tanked. Yeah. Yeah. I had a fairly stressful job. HR is not necessarily the easiest job to be in, although I think a kindergarten teacher probably would be worse to me than my HR job was. Just saying. So my job was pretty stressful. We moved, we had deaths in the family. There were lots of things going on. So it was a lot. So once we moved to Portland, I, of course, jumped right on the Tammy Stacklehouse train of who are your doctors and who do you see? And I was like, oh, I'm going to see Dr. Ginevra. And at that point in time, that's when she had closed down her clinic. And I was like, now what do I do? So for anyone who listens to Tammy's podcast, you hear her talk about Dr. B, and we call her Dr. B because her last name is a little bit challenging. So she's just Dr. B, but it's Bourgeois, I think.
Yep. Dr.
I think
Kaylee
I'm
Bourgeois.
close. Kaylee Bourgeois. And she and I have just been on a fact-finding mission for me since I got here. So it's been just about 12 months since I started seeing her. And we have discovered all sorts of things about me. One of which is my hormone levels were very off or very low, or I have gone through menopause, which for a person my age is not shocking. However, and I'm very open about this, so this will be out there for the world. At the age of 36, I had a hysterectomy. At the age of 36, no one had a conversation with me about any type of hormone replacement. There is no cancer history in my family. There is no reason why there would not be any conversation about that. There just wasn't. About 2019 is probably when I went through menopause. And the biggest determining factor to me for that is I have curly hair. Never in my life have I ever had curly hair. It's always been straight, perfectly straight, to the point where my family members are like, when did you have become, where did this come from? Like,
Did you get a perm?
yeah, like it's just really strange. And I'm like, so she and I walked backwards. And so one of the things is that I have started hormone replacement therapy, which I think much of the pain that I was still having was not truly fibro related. Like, I think that I really did have my fibromyalgia under control, and that the pain that I was suffering from was other extenuating circumstances, things like adrenal fatigue and
If your thyroid's off, that'll cause
and my
pain.
thyroid was off.
All of those things.
And she and I have tested it 3 times in 12 months, because the first time it seemed okay, and the second time it was a little off, and the third time it seemed okay, actually 4 times, and the fourth time it was like, oh no, it really is not right. So we've gone back and forth with the thyroid. We added the hormone replacement. I tried something called orthopedic massage. I had been doing myofascial release, which helped some, but it was just not getting to the root of my issues. I'm back to acupuncture once a week, now kind of going to every other week. So like all of the things. So my health has been a full-time job for a little while, but I'm finally to the point where I'm like, oh yeah, last weekend took a 5-mile bicycle ride with grandkids, and, went to British Columbia with my husband on vacation and hiked for, 6.5 or 7 miles in a day. So it's just all very exciting to know that you can get to that point. And that is what I coach my clients through, is like, where you are now, just know that how you feel right now doesn't mean it has to be your forever. Like, coming to acceptance of the fact that you have fibromyalgia is not easy. but it doesn't mean that you have to accept that you are going to be in the stage that you are at right now. You can make improvements. Your health can get better. You can feel better. It takes work and it takes time. It's not an overnight experience.
And it takes trying a lot of stuff.
A lot of
sometimes,
stuff.
Right? To find the thing that is your perfect right recipe.
Yes. And my recipe, and you've already, I mean, and everyone you've talked to already, it's like one person's recipe was not the next person's recipe, which was, I mean, each person's recipe is unique, which is part of what the challenge is with fibromyalgia and why doctors struggle to help us.
Mm-hmm. And that's why I teach so many different kinds of things in the class too, because, you know, you'll pull out the things that work for you from the class, but then you go on to help somebody else and they need a different answer.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because I would not say that hormone replacement therapy is going to be for everyone, because some people that might be a problem for. We talk about adrenal fatigue and like using hydrocortisone. Hydrocortisone is a possible treatment. I'm allergic to it. So then what are you going to do? You have to come up with something else. The normal approaches that, I shouldn't say normal, there is no normal approach in fibromyalgia, but medications and how they are typically used for me are not always a great success. I tend to have, my body overreacts to whatever the medication may be.
If there's a possible side effect.
I have it. If there's a 0.01% chance that there will be have a side effect, I am probably that person that will have it. It's not to say that I have like I can never remember the name of that.
Mast cell activation syndrome.
It's not necessarily that. Just
not right for you.
Just not right for me. So, all right. Yeah. But the coaching class, not saying that everyone that takes the advisor course or needs to become a coach, but the coaching class has been extremely rewarding in the process of going through it. So I have really, really enjoyed it, and getting to know my clients and being able to see the progress that they make. Most of the people I have worked with are the overachievers. People tend to gravitate towards people that are similar to themselves. Yep. And I was that person who, when my kids were younger. My kids are all adulting now, so yay. They all adult successfully, and but when they were younger, like when they were in high school, I was the mom who was the lacrosse coach, the lacrosse mom, the team mom. I was still working. I was doing, PTA. I was doing this. I was doing that. Like all of the things all at one time. Those are the kind of people who tend to gravitate towards me as a coach. I have the people who are working and raising kids and trying to do a bunch of other extracurricular activities, or grad students who are writing books who blow my mind, and like just all the things that people do. It's just amazing to me. So I get a lot from the clients that I coach. Probably, I would say to me, it's more rewarding. I'm hopeful that I'm extremely helpful to them. But for me, it's very rewarding to be there with them, to walk through their lives with them.
And that is a good point for me to read a comment that came in our Q&A. I didn't know we were going to get this, but I want to read it, and I really hope it's okay to the person who posted this, but it reads like she intended for us to share it. So you'll know who this is as I read it. She says, "If it weren't for Penny, I wouldn't even be able to sit at my desk for more than 10 minutes, let alone attend an online event after midnight," which is where she is. She says, unfortunately, fibro is not considered an actual illness in Germany. I've been bouncing from one doctor to another, resulting in more frustration. Working with Penny is a milestone in my journey. Not only have my symptoms improved immensely, but I have also learned how to advocate for myself. As a high achiever and perfectionist, for the first time in my life, I'm happy to get a lower score on something. And then she says, my Fibromyalgia Impact Questionnaire clearly shows how far I've come since I started working with Penny. So I just had to
Yes.
share that.
Thank you. And I do know who that is. I do know who that is. She sent me a lovely email just yesterday encouraging me, because she knows this is not my comfort zone. I am more naturally an introvert. So being public is not necessarily my thing. But yeah, she's made huge progress, and still has a little way to go. And yeah, medical systems in other countries, and like you have coaches that are also in other countries, but medical systems, it's not just the US that is a challenge.
It's all
other
broken.
countries, yes, other countries can be very, very challenging. And some countries you wait months and months just to get, I shouldn't say months, years to get an appointment with someone that you need an appointment with. So yeah, it makes it very difficult to move forward in your progress if you don't have that medical support.
Mm-hmm. And especially if you are in another country in that kind of a situation, working with a coach can be really helpful, because instead of waiting a couple of years or months or whatever to get some answers, you can get some information and some answers now.
Yes. And that particular client happens to be the one who went to her physiotherapist, who then was so excited to help someone else who she, just by working with that person, really believed that another person had fibro, and was like, oh, I can approach their physical therapy in a different way than what I have been doing, because clearly what I'm doing is not helping them.
Yeah, that's amazing. Being able to, down the chain, help people that you and I may never meet.
Right. Yes. Yeah. Yes. That's
So
the exciting part of the coaching to me, is that, that the ripples that we make in the pond is the biggest part for me, that's the most rewarding.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, congratulations again, Penny, for all the things, for graduating as a coach, for your improvement, for, finding your missing pieces and your answers.
Yeah. I'm very thankful for the team that I'm slowly but surely putting together here in the West Coast, that I thought I had on the East Coast, but I've made huge leaps and bounds since finding the right pieces and parts to put together for a medical team for myself.
That's awesome. Congratulations again, Penny.
Thank you.
All right. Now let's go to Anne. Anne is our last graduate. First off, I want to say thank you for everybody who's hanging in there. I know this has been a long one. We've got a lot of grads, but Anne in North Dakota, we had Connie in North Dakota. You're in South Dakota.
Yes.
Oh, goodness. So, Anne, where do we even start with you?
Right.
So when Anne and I met, pretty much almost everything in your life has changed since then. Yeah. Right? Divorce, moved 3 times, COVID, knee surgery, taking care of your mom, taking care of your kiddo who also has fibromyalgia and other stuff. Like, we could go on and on.
Yeah. She's got a lot of stuff for her age, definitely.
Yeah. And so do you.
Well, yeah. 23 years, and I've finally come full circle, is what I feel like. So
that's amazing. So you started your advisor class with a Fibromyalgia Impact Questionnaire score of 61, and you are graduating today with a score of 16, sweet 16, which is a 73% improvement. Wow.
Right.
In spite of all of the moving and the divorce and the COVID and the knee surgery and like all the
Yeah,
things.
everything on and on. Yeah, I mean, it was, you saw me at the worst time in my life ever. You've seen me go through some of the worst things I've ever been through, and I still maintained, I still improved. So, and a lot of that
Yeah.
is, it's my whole journey it's been a blessing, because like I said, it's like my life fell apart, but yet I feel like I have come full circle. I know my faith is a big piece of that. So.
Mhm. But let's be honest. Faith is good. It helps, but there's also things that are really going wrong in your body that have to be fixed, right?
Yeah, it's been a long, hard journey. I mean, it's a lot of hard work, but I have a new family support group of my fibro family. So.
Yeah. So what are some of the things that you've done over the last few years to improve your fibromyalgia, even with all the other stuff going on?
I think improving my thyroid, sleep, reducing inflammation with the low dose naltrexone is huge. And I think even, learning I have ADHD. The other thing is helping other people is a huge thing. When you're able to make a difference in someone else's life and they're like, oh my gosh, it's amazing to watch them go through that. And I'm thinking about what you've been doing all these years. It must be the same for you, where you're just like, oh my gosh, like Penny had said before, it's like, we help one person, they help someone else, it just keeps going on, and this is growing, and it's amazing. It's very amazing, inspirational.
And it sounds kind of funny to say, helping other people helped my fibromyalgia be better, but it's true.
Yeah.
Right?
It gives you, it's when I did my podcast with you in December, things have even changed since then. It's more like when I'm helping other people, and it reminds me to, do a check on myself. Or I've had, a couple of the other coaches say this or that. And, it's like, what are you doing to take care of yourself? And what are you doing for yourself? And, so it kind of helps remind you, like when you're helping other people going through things, it's just, it just feels like, I'm all these things get putting in my path, and the people that, the people that I've been working with so far, I'm so proud of them, because their hard work as well. And that's the thing that I think I'm just so excited to be able to help other people on this journey. So.
Exactly. It's the best part for me too. But it does. One thing you said that I just want to touch back on, as we're coaching our clients and as we're, talking to them about, making sure that they don't overdo, and as we're asking them, okay, now how are you going to build in some rest time, or asking them, how are you doing on those PT exercises, you were given. At the same time, we're hearing it ourselves, right? And so I find often that I'm coaching myself, even though I'm coaching somebody else.
Yeah. Yep. Well, and they help kind of remind you, because you go back through different things, and everybody does need something different, and we're all on a different journey. It's like fibromyalgia is a part of my life. It's not taking over my life anymore. It's just part of my life, and you can live with fibromyalgia and turn things around. It's possible. It's like I said, it's some hard work, but if you're willing to put in the time, it's totally possible. I can't believe that I've improved 73%. That's wow. In 2 years, really, with all the things, all the challenges I had in front of me, it's just like,
yes. But at the same
amazing.
time, some of the things that happened actually there's concrete reasons why they would help if we actually stop and look at it. So for instance, thinking about having knee surgery, if you've got a source of pain like that and you can fix it, it might make things worse for a while, but then you're better because of it, right? Because you've removed that pain trigger, or, maybe it's an emotional pain trigger from, and that's why you got a divorce, which we won't necessarily need to talk a lot about, but let's just put it at that.
Yeah. Well, even healing past traumas gets, rid of things. And the one thing that I love doing the most right now is I love being in the water. So when I do water therapy, strengthening my core, it's making a huge difference. I have more energy than I've had. I feel better. I'm happier,
What are some of your favorite things that you share with your clients as far as like things to try, whether that's treatments, supplements, medication, whatever?
Well, I think the one thing that I really like to find out is like, what do they enjoy to do and what do they want to do again? And like one of my clients, she didn't think she'd ever be able to do any more crocheting or knitting, and now she's able to do some knitting and she's able to do some yoga and she's doing some other things for herself. And one of my other gals, it's finding the joy. And, because one of my other gals, she's such a talented artist with card making and scrapbooking, and it's bringing the joy back into their life is a huge thing, because there's been so much, their life has been just taken over by fibromyalgia, but now they're kind of getting it in check. So you're able to do, more things that you enjoy, and that makes your life better.
And also thinking about like that thing that you enjoy, are there modifications that can be made? Can you, how can you add it in a way that's still fibro friendly?
Exactly. Yeah. And that's some of it is getting their pain under control is a huge, huge thing. That's probably the pain and fatigue are the biggest usually. Awesome. And once you start getting that figured out, then you can figure out how to bring some more, joy back into your life.
And that's what it's all about, people.
That's it, baby. That's it.
We're here for more than just waking up, hurting, laying on the couch and then going back to bed at the end of the day.
Yeah, no, exactly.
So, Anne, is there anything that you want to share with the people who are listening, who are maybe still struggling and looking for some answers?
Well, I guess one thing, it was just so amazing having Dr. Ginevra, speaking, because her book has been phenomenal as far as a resource from a doctor. And that I go back on that book a lot, and that helps me, find different things out to help other people, along with, the Fibromyalgia Podcast is one of my other favorite things that I kind of tell people about or whatever, and to get things out of. I think I've learned the most out of everything from my daughter, because now, she's a teenager, and learning different things with her, helping her adjust her life so she can have some kind of a life again. It's been very difficult because there's been nobody to help. And that's, I guess, one thing that I've learned a lot. So that's, there's any other teens out there, whatever, I know that, there's a lot of things we can do to help them.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And I know your daughter has actually brought you a lot of good information as well, right? It's not just
she's
one
my
way.
Little researcher. I only thought I was, but yeah, she's very, very insightful on things and learning, and yeah. I mean, she's been dealing with her illnesses for 5 years. And the other difficulty is when you have all these other comorbidities, it just, and fibromyalgia is your amplifier. So that's, going to jack everything up. But little by little, you can start making little fixes here and there, and it makes everything better.
It adds up, doesn't it?
It does. It definitely does.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Anne, for sharing that, for being part of sharing part of your journey, and congratulations on graduating as a coach.
Thank you. I very much appreciate your help and just for what you've done for the fibromyalgia community. So
Thanks so much.
yay,
Anne.
Tammy.
Awesome. Congratulations.
Thank
And
you.
for those of you listening, if you are looking for a coach, Penny and Anne are both fully graduated, all certified. So they are on our Find a Coach page. If you are looking for help, just go to fibrocoach.com, and there'll be a little application to fill out. Then you can choose the kind of coach you're looking for, whether that's a certified coach or a student or whatever. And then you can choose who you want to work with. We do have 3 of our graduates today are going into our coaching class, Lauren and Lisa and Kim. And so they will be on the Find a Coach page for people looking for student coaches, probably in another couple of months. So you can watch for that if you're looking for a student coach. We will be sending out an email, as I mentioned at the beginning, that'll have some of these links in there if that's easier for you. And our desire here today is that you would find maybe some new things to try, that you would maybe get some encouragement, some hope that it is possible to feel better, and maybe see in people's lives a little reflection of your own. People found ways to improve in the middle of life sometimes being a hot mess. And that's okay. Like, you don't have to wait until it's all over before you start feeling better. One of the things that I realized early in my journey was I can't wait to feel better before I start trying to feel better, because that's like waiting until you're in shape before you start to exercise. It just doesn't work that way. You have to start the process when you don't feel good, or you will never start the process. So wherever you're at, just know that there are ways to feel better, no matter who you are, where you are at in your journey, what other things you got going on. We can all find ways to get just a little bit better, a little bit better. I also wanted to mention our next advisor class does start next month in just a few weeks. If you're interested in that, if you want to get more details on that, go to bafibrocoach.com. So class is at Be a Fibro Coach, and scheduling with a coach is Find a Fibro Coach. We also are going to be sending you links where you can grab my books. You can download those for free. The podcast links will be there as well. That email will come out at any moment, and we will get the replay of today's video up. If you missed part of that, that will be up first part of the week. We'll send you a second email when the video replay is ready. So thank you all so much for coming. Especially thank you for hanging in there. Today was extra long, and I apologize for that, but we had a lot to celebrate today. So thank you for being here. You can feel better, and please reach out if there's anything we can do to help. I see we've got quite a few Q&As. We will get to those first part of next week as well. I see most of you put your email address in there, so that's awesome. All right. Thank you so much. And congratulations again, graduates, for all your hard work and how far you've come. And thanks again to Dr. Ginevra as our special commencement speaker. Don't forget, you can find her at drginevra.com. See you guys here in 6 months. In January, we'll have our next Stories of Hope and Healing event. Thanks. See ya.